The world watches in stunned disbelief as China accomplishes what seems utterly impossible. While other nations debate and deliberate for decades over a single rail line, China is constructing an astounding 3,000 kilometers of high-speed rail every single year. This is not just infrastructure. This is a revolution in motion, a transformation so vast and so rapid that it has left engineers, economists, and governments around the globe scrambling to understand how it is even possible. Imagine this: 3,000 kilometers. That is roughly the distance from New York to Los Angeles. Now imagine building that entire distance in advanced, cutting-edge, high-speed rail infrastructure in just 12 months, then doing it again the next year, and the year after that. This is not science fiction. This is China's reality, and it is reshaping the future of transportation, economics, and global power itself. The numbers are staggering beyond comprehension. China's high-speed rail network now spans over 45,000 kilometers, making it longer than all other countries' high-speed rail systems combined. In fact, China operates more high-speed rail than the rest of the world put together. While Europe, the birthplace of high-speed rail, took decades to build approximately 11,000 kilometers, China surpassed that figure in less than 10 years, and then kept building at an accelerating pace. But here is what truly shocks observers. This is not just about speed of construction. The trains themselves operate at velocities that would have seemed like fantasy just 20 years ago. Regular services run at 350 kilometers per hour. At these speeds, journeys that once took 12 hours now take 3. Cities separated by vast distances are suddenly neighbors. The economic and social implications are profound and far-reaching. The scale of what China has accomplished becomes even more mind-boggling when you consider the terrain. This is not rail laid across flat, empty plains. China's high-speed rail network crosses some of the most challenging geography on Earth. The lines traverse towering mountain ranges, plunge through hundreds of tunnels, soar across valleys on bridges that defy imagination, and navigate terrain that engineers in other countries would simply declare impossible to build on. Take the Beijing to Guangzhou line. This single route required the construction of 946 bridges and 171 tunnels. Nearly half of the entire 2,300-kilometer journey is spent either elevated on bridges or burrowing through mountains. The engineering complexity is astronomical, yet China completed this massive project in just 4 years. 4 years for what would take most developed nations 2 to 3 decades to accomplish. The Lanzhou to Urumqi line presents even more extreme challenges. This route cuts through the Gobi Desert and the Tian Shan Mountains, facing temperature variations from minus 40 degrees Celsius in winter to plus 40 degrees Celsius in summer. Chinese engineers developed entirely new materials and construction techniques to overcome these obstacles, creating track systems that can withstand these brutal extremes while maintaining the precision required for trains traveling at over 300 kilometers per hour. The question everyone asks is simple yet profound. How does China do this? How does one nation accomplish in a single year what would take most developed countries a decade or more? The answer is a complex web of factors that together create an unstoppable construction machine unlike anything the world has ever seen. First, there is the matter of decision-making speed. In democratic nations, high-speed rail projects often spend 10 to 15 years in planning, environmental reviews, public consultations, and political debates before a single meter of track is laid. Different levels of government must coordinate. Private landowners must be negotiated with. Environmental groups must be satisfied. Each step can take years. China operates differently. Once a decision is made at the national level, implementation begins immediately. Environmental assessments, land acquisition, and construction can proceed in parallel rather than sequentially. What takes 15 years elsewhere takes 3 years in China. Then there is the matter of financing. High-speed rail is monumentally expensive. A single kilometer can cost between $20 million and $50 million, depending on terrain and urban density. Building 3,000 kilometers every year requires investments of $60 billion to $150 billion each year. Most countries simply cannot access this kind of capital. China approaches this differently. The government treats high-speed rail as a strategic national priority rather than a simple transportation project. It is seen as essential to economic development, national unity, and long-term competitiveness. State-owned banks provide low-interest loans for construction. The government accepts that many lines will not be immediately profitable, viewing them instead as long-term investments in economic growth and social cohesion. The standardization of design is another crucial factor. Rather than custom engineering each project from scratch, China has developed a limited number of standardized train models and track designs. This standardization dramatically reduces costs and speeds up both manufacturing and construction. When you are building 3,000 kilometers of track annually, the ability to mass-produce standardized components rather than custom engineer everything is absolutely critical. The scale of the manufacturing base supporting this construction is difficult to comprehend. China produces high-speed rail cars, tracks, signals, electrical systems, and all other components domestically. Factories operate around the clock, churning out the materials needed to feed the construction machine. When a project needs components, they are available immediately from domestic suppliers, not ordered from abroad, and shipped over months. But perhaps most importantly, China has created a workforce specifically trained and experienced in high-speed rail construction. Over the past 2 decades, hundreds of thousands of engineers, technicians, and construction workers have gained hands-on experience building these systems. This expertise is cumulative and self-reinforcing. Each project makes the next project faster and more efficient. Problems that might take international consultants months to solve are resolved quickly by teams who have encountered and overcome similar challenges dozens of times before. The construction methodology itself has been refined to a level approaching industrial manufacturing. Bridges are often built using standardized precast concrete segments manufactured off-site and assembled with crane systems that move down the line like a mobile factory. This is not artisanal construction. This is industrialized, mass production of infrastructure. Tunnel boring machines, enormous drill systems that can carve through solid rock, operate continuously in parallel across multiple projects. China has more tunnel boring machines in operation than any other nation, and they run around the clock, boring through mountains at rates that would have seemed impossible 20 years ago. The impact of this massive rail network extends far beyond transportation. The economic transformation is extraordinary. Cities that were once isolated are now part of integrated economic zones. Workers can live in smaller, more affordable cities and commute to jobs in major metropolitan areas. Businesses can source materials and sell products across vast distances with unprecedented speed and reliability. The high-speed rail network is essentially shrinking China, turning it into a more unified and efficient economic engine. Real estate development along high-speed rail lines has exploded. Stations become economic hubs, with new commercial and residential districts sprouting around them. Land values near stations increase dramatically, often by several 100% within just a few years of a line opening. This creates a virtuous cycle where the rail investment stimulates development, which generates tax revenue, and which helps pay for more rail construction. The environmental benefits are substantial. A single high-speed train can carry as many passengers as 5 fully loaded passenger jets, with dramatically lower carbon emissions per passenger. As millions of Chinese travelers shift from air travel and automobiles to high-speed rail, the reduction in greenhouse gas emissions is significant. Tourism has been revolutionized. Destinations that were once difficult to reach are now easily accessible, leading to explosive growth in domestic tourism. Historic sites, natural wonders, and cultural attractions that previously saw limited visitors now welcome millions annually. This spreads economic benefits beyond the major coastal cities into interior regions that had been left behind in China as economic boom. The social impact may be even more profound than the economic one. The ability to maintain close family connections despite geographic distance has enormous implications in Chinese society, where family ties are paramount. Elderly parents in smaller cities can see their children working in major metropolitan areas regularly, rather than just once or twice a year. Yet this incredible achievement comes with challenges that cannot be ignored. The debt burden is enormous. Estimates suggest that China's railway system carries over $1 trillion in debt. Many lines, particularly those serving less populated regions, operate at losses and may never be profitable in a conventional sense. Critics argue that this level of investment is economically unsustainable and represents a massive misallocation of capital. There are also concerns about safety and quality. The incredible speed of construction raises questions about whether proper quality control measures are consistently applied. In 2011, a high-speed train collision near Wenzhou killed 40 people, raising serious concerns about safety systems. While China has implemented significant safety improvements since that tragedy, the incident highlighted the risks inherent in operating such a vast system at such high speeds. From a global perspective, China's high-speed rail achievement has sparked intense competition and soul-searching in other nations. The United States, which once led the world in railroad technology, now has barely any high-speed rail. The California High-Speed Rail project has been in planning for over 15 years, has spent billions of dollars, and has yet to complete a single operational segment. Europe, despite having more high-speed rail than any region outside China, is building new lines at a glacial pace compared to Chinese standards. The Stuttgart to Munich line in Germany, just under 300 kilometers, is expected to take over 20 years to complete and cost over 10 billion euros. China would build that distance in a month and a half at its current pace. This has led to difficult questions in Western capitals. If China can build infrastructure at this scale and speed, what does that say about the efficiency and competitiveness of democratic, market-based systems? The technology race has intensified. China has moved from importing high-speed rail technology in the early 2000s to exporting it in the 2020s. Chinese companies are now bidding on high-speed rail projects around the world, offering to build systems faster and cheaper than European or Japanese competitors. The future of China's high-speed rail expansion is both ambitious and uncertain. Plans call for expanding the network to 70,000 kilometers by 2035. New technologies are being developed and tested. China is experimenting with maglev trains capable of speeds exceeding 600 kilometers per hour. There are also experiments with vacuum tube trains that could theoretically reach speeds of over 1,000 kilometers per hour. For the rest of the world, China's high-speed rail achievement is both inspiration and challenge. It demonstrates what is possible when a nation commits massive resources and political will to infrastructure development. It shows that technological and logistical challenges that seem insurmountable can be overcome with determination, investment, and expertise. What is undeniable is that China has accomplished something extraordinary. Building 3,000 kilometers of high-speed rail annually is not just impressive engineering. It represents a fundamental reordering of economic geography, a transformation of how people live and work, and a statement of national ambition and capability that echoes around the world. As trains streak across China at 350 kilometers per hour, carrying hundreds of millions of passengers annually across distances that once seemed impossibly vast, one thing is absolutely certain. China has built something the world has never seen before, at a scale and speed that continues to amaze and confound observers. This is infrastructure as national transformation, and its implications will shape China and the world for generations to come.